okay. And I'll let you guys know when we are live because you will see me
Okay.
do my spiel that we're live. We are recording now, so we're in preparation of going live. It will be live in a few minutes. Just a few hot minutes. All right, guys. We're about to go live. I'll let you know. All right, good people. We are live after dark in the sound room with yours truly, your guest, the anointed one, Erica Nicole, and I have some special guests. They my friends, y'all. They is my friends, and I need you to sound off and let me know that you can see us and that you can hear us in the sound room. Let me know if you can hear us. Give me a thumbs up. Say I hear you, and then we will proceed. Hold on. Let me see too, because I can tell too. I can tell. All right. I see us. I see us. Give me some thumbs up and let me know y'all in the room. All right. They can hear us. Good evening. Good evening. And you are live after dark in the sound room with yours truly, Erica Nicole, the anointed one, where my special guest, all the way from the East Coast and from Texas, I have Joanna Connor. She's gonna introduce herself, and then we're gonna move on to the next person. Introduce yourself, Joanna. Let them know who you are.
Hi, my name is Joanna Connor. I'm a wife, a mother. Also, I just released a new single. So I'm an artist. I'm a gospel artist. I released a new single, "So in Love." So I'm so excited about that.
Mind you, I
And
prophesied that when we was in church on the praise and worship team.
yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Give it to me.
So yeah. And as of now, I just been home due to COVID. So even though I work in the social work field and education, you know that's what I'm doing right now.
So, Joanna, your new release is that. Where can they listen to that at?
You can find "So in Love" basically anywhere. If you want to purchase it, you can purchase it on Amazon or Apple, or if you streaming on Spotify, Apple, Napster, Deezer, Tidal, wherever you streaming, add me to your playlist.
Baby, I'm gonna have to add you to my playlist because I want to be so in love. Okay.
Yes, and we're working on the EP, so in a couple of months you'll be able to get the EP. So I'm excited.
And remember the voice that you will hear that will be the word spoken. I spoke that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
On that AP, I'm not even worried about that.
That's
That is my Joanna. I call her my Joanna man. Ooh, that's my boo. All right, and Vinay, come on, give them some little information on Nay Nay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vinay Walker, and I am a mother of two of the most handsome young men, 23 and 18.
Yes, they are. And
I am divorced. What's that?
they tall too.
They are very tall. I'm
They are.
very short compared to. But I am divorced. 7 years, actually, this week makes 7 years, and recently relocated from San Antonio to Austin. So I am adjusting to life as an empty nester, and I'm just enjoying life right now.
Girl,
right.
I don't know. I don't know that feeling.
Me either.
I don't know that feeling. I don't know.
Not yet.
I'm waiting for the day. Um, good. Tonight after dark, we know what after dark is. We get these crazy questions. I get these crazy questions in my inbox. I get crazy questions about marriage, about sex, about all of that. It's after dark, right? Um, but what I love about it is that the people that I bring into the room is people that are sound, people who have experienced things. A lot of us are not psychologists, but I will, some of my friends are do have degrees in psychology. But a lot of it is from our experience. You can have a degree, but a degree don't mean anything if you haven't experienced something. So our advice that we give through the Sound Room After Dark is based off of our experience in living, baby. They say experience is the best teacher. I think who was
Yes.
that song made that song? Mickey Howard. It takes someone like me to learn. You know,
I think that was Mickey.
Mickey Howard, and she was going with my boyfriend, and I really don't talk to people that talk to my boyfriend. Girl, we was gonna get married.
Big girl.
We didn't know it, but we was. So on tonight we're going to be answering those questions. I do thank Joanna and Vinay for checking on me for the last couple of days. When I say I have friends, even though we don't live in the same state anymore, I have friends who love me, and that means so much to me. Vinay, me and her connected at Vertical Church in San Antonio as ministers. Me and Joanna connected at Omega Church on the East Coast, where I was a part of as praise and worship members. So that's just how God does it. He brings certain people into my life that just loves me to life. Okay, hello. So we finna get into these questions.
All right.
And baby, this first one, I had to go straight to this one because this is a good one.
Uh-oh.
This first question is, would sex be a deal breaker?
Mm.
And I had them to elaborate on the question because I wanted to be clear that we was able to answer the question correctly. So she said, if I have waited to have sex and finally had sex with him and it was not good, would that be a deal breaker for you? Because it is for me.
Mm.
So, but now,
All right. It's straightforward.
Oh,
would sex be a deal breaker for you?
I say no. And I say no because you have to look at the heart and the intent of the person. So, in my experience, because I went through so much hell in my marriage, sex was great, but everything else was jacked up. So, I would rather somebody love me and treat me well, even if it's not great. Hey, we can try different things, we can learn together, but I am not going to shun that man if he treats me like a queen because he can't get down like my ex-husband. No, I'm not going to do that. I just would rather somebody love me and treat me well and take care of me.
Okay.
Everything else is workable.
Okay. You married. Would it be a deal breaker, Joanna?
I would say no too. But I would say that if you're the one who is not as the active one, because it's normally one that's more active than the other one, I would say that you need to put in your best effort to try to do whatever you need to do to keep up.
Yes.
That's what I would say. If you need to come home and get yourself a bath, do whatever it is you need to do
True.
to try to keep up. That's how I look at it. But I don't say that it's a deal breaker.
Well,
that's how I feel about it.
I'll be transparent. I'm saved.
It's all good.
And I'm sanctified. Okay? And I am filled with the Holy Ghost. But me, I probably would have test drive a car before I married it. You know,
I mean,
I'm saying this because church people make it seem like they don't do certain things and they do. You know what I'm saying? And I want, even though my podcast, I'm a Christian and I talk about Christian things, but in this podcast, we are unorthodox, right?
Yeah.
We're not finna be playing no games with nobody about what we do and how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
I am a person that I'm active in my marriage sexually, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very active. And we are women that are. I know me and Vinay, we over 40.
Yeah, me too.
We're over 40, and as
Uh,
we get older, our appetite increases. And so, here's the thing that I feel like this should happen, and she's on here. I feel like that you should have counseling before you marry. That's first and foremost.
right.
Secondly, in the counseling, you should be discussing your sex life,
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like. And I'm not knocking you. If you wait until you married, I promise you, more power to you. And I'm not
Right.
saying that that's wrong. But I'm talking about Erica Nico. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
As anointed as I am, I'm going to test drive the car. Right? And so, but in that, we're going to talk about it. You know, you should have
Mm-hmm.
counseling about sex, what that looks like, what you don't like, and how important that plays a part, because I don't know a man that goes into a relationship or a woman that goes into a relationship that don't want anybody to have sex with them.
Right.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, but I'm counseling a couple now that sex is an issue for them because she wants to do certain things on holidays, but she was doing it before they got married. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can't give a false preconceived notion of who you are before you say I do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we do that. We give a
Yeah.
false preconceived notion because we too busy trying to get them, especially if they're a pastor.
Right.
Now I ain't never been one that was trying to go after no pastor. I promise you.
Me either. Me
Because
either.
I'm telling you, and I had girlfriends who wanted pastors for husbands.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted that, but not understanding. As a minister, I had a pastor when I first got into the ministry. When I tell you I'm a power preaching pack house woman, I can preach down the house. I promise you. I had a schedule like I was a pastor. I traveled so much preaching and teaching that I don't think that the issue that most first ladies was having was like their husband want to have sex too much.
Mm.
As a pastor and a preacher, and I'm telling you from experience, because I preached so much, it took my whole sex drive to another level, because you into a level of intimacy with God that the only thing that can balance and bring that out is sex. I'm not trying to be funny, but it is.
Wow. That's the first time I heard that.
Me
Your
too.
appetite becomes greater. If you notice a lot of pastors are found in sexual scandals.
True.
Yeah.
Not scandals about money, not scandals about anything. 9 times out of 10, it's sexual. Because
Yeah.
the appetite, if they're preaching, girl, my husband thought that I was like entering certain things because my preaching schedule, before I even moved to the East Coast, my preaching schedule, I was preaching every day, like almost 2-3 times a day doing revivals, right? Because the person who was my assistant at the time had double booked me, and I was one that didn't like to not fulfill my obligation. So I was preaching like 2-3 times a day in a revival. Well, I would go to this church on this side of the city and then shoot over here to this church on this side of the city, right? And so my sexual appetite had gotten so like, and so high and so plentiful that happens. And so I believe that when you are entering into a relationship, not only discussing finances, but I think the sex level needs to be discussed too, because certain people have different appetites for certain things.
Yeah.
And so if you got an appetite for bringing in animals, I ain't gonna be able to kick it with you. Okay, I'm the wrong
Right now, come on.
Break it
I'm not
down.
gonna be able to do that with you. I ain't even gonna be able to bring in another person in my room. That may be something that you like, but that ain't gonna work for me.
Right.
Now I got some stuff in the room that will have you thinking that you with another person. Okay, I could be Sasha, Coco the Island Girl, and Nikki from the stripper room. Okay, but we ain't bringing nobody else in here. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say to her, when it comes down to that, you guys should have discussed that before you entered into marriage.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with waiting until you married to have sex, because the Bible teaches us that. No
Right.
Yes.
none of that.
Mhm.
But another thing I would say is that sex shouldn't be the deal breaker to your marriage, because
Right.
what that's saying to me is that sex was the deal to the marriage.
Right.
And because God was not the deal to the marriage, then you are not under a covenant, you are under a contract. And the covenant is not something that you should be able to break easily because somebody don't have sex the way you want them to have sex.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
So
Yeah, definitely agree.
so careful and that's the one thing that the churches don't really talk about, or didn't talk about when I was coming through the church. They didn't want to talk about sex, but we was having all these kids out of wedlock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How can Brother John and Sister Sarah be married for 6 years, but they kids 22?
Exactly. Right.
Don't that make sense? So when it comes down to, I just want us to be so transparent in the sound room, because God is coming in here to tear down myths of things that were taught in error so that we can learn correctly. God does not bless mess. He
Right.
doesn't. He
That is
corrects
the
it.
truth.
Mm-hmm.
That is the
And once
truth.
he corrects it, that's when the blessing comes in. But we always use certain cliches. Well, God bless mess. No, we don't. Stop saying that. He don't do that.
No.
God has grace and mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Grace and mercy is not for you to wake up every day just to sin. That's not
Right.
what grace and mercy is for. Grace and mercy is for you to, if you so happen to sin.
Right.
Right.
He extends grace. And he knows I'm going to sin because I'm going to test drive the car before I buy it.
He said she.
Well, that's your safety net. That grace is your safety net.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not opposed. Now, I want to be clear on this. I'm not opposed to, if I come into contact with a man of God and he chooses to wait until we marry, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
But in our counseling session, we gonna discuss sex.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, definitely.
We're gonna discuss how we handle kids. We're gonna discuss how we handle finances. We're gonna discuss how houses ran. I believe, and I don't care, contrary to what we were taught in era, I believe that a woman should submit to a man and a man should be the head of the household.
Absolutely.
We should honor his position as our king, but they should honor our position as their queen, because God doesn't play checkers. He plays chess.
Mm-hmm.
And he checkmates the opponent. But the only way he checkmates them is with the king and the queen.
Right.
And the knights. So you gotta be careful of when you're entering into. That's why they say you shouldn't enter marriage lightly.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Because had I known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have got as married as I quickly married as I did. Because I married under a contractual mentality instead of a covenant mentality.
Exactly.
Contractual is between two parties who agree on what is going on. As long as it's going on, we good. But if it's not going on, then we just
Yeah.
You're right about it.
says, this covenant is not unto this man, but this covenant is to God, who this man benefits from. And no matter what's going on, I'm going to trust that God has enough love for us to be able to allow us to adjust in situations until we can come back together at the same time, baby. And my prayer is that we never fall out of love at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
We never not loving each other at the same. One of us got to have some strength for the other. So that's why you got to be so careful before you even enter into marriage, especially when it comes down to sex, because I don't think I'm gonna be able to have sex once a month.
No, man.
I don't know too many. I don't know too many men who have that problem.
No, Joanna, I promise you.
Once a month.
Yes. Since I have started After Dark, I have had so many men that are inboxing me about their spouses not wanting to have sex, but maybe once or twice a month.
No, I'm talking about, I normally hear men complaining about women saying they only need it once a month, but I haven't met too many men who have that problem. Now, I don't know if
I
they're,
have women who are saying that too. So
wow.
the reality is, I'm asking questions first, because here's the thing that we have to understand with that. Because one of the ladies, her husband has a lot of ailments that's going on with him, and he takes a
Okay.
medication. So when you're taking certain medications, it affects your ability to get.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's dealing with health. That's a different story,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Um, then this one couple she said her husband said she disgusts him because she's fat. He's not attracted to her because she's fat. I mean, the emails and things that I get, that I have gotten since we have started the sound room, has been so crazy, right?
Mm.
And then this one man, I had to explain to him because his wife is going through the change of life. Going through the change of life, men, you don't understand that.
They do not.
So there is a hormonal imbalance that's going on with her, that the least thing she's thinking about is sex. She's
Yeah.
hot. She's trying to stay cool. She's trying to figure out what's her sanity. It's like it's so much going on. Because yesterday it was cold, but I was hot as a mother. I was like, y'all ain't hot in here. They was like,
See, now I haven't experienced that yet, so I'm not there yet.
Oh, don't rush it, honey.
yeah, take your time. So it happens. And so, but my thing is this: as couples, you should be able to communicate effectively. You should have built a relationship with your mate that you guys can sit down and have these conversations, because these conversations has to be had. And
Right.
me getting into counseling and learning to learning things that I'm learning through the counseling stages of these relationships, I'm like, and it's happening. It's real. It is real.
Yeah.
And sex is a major component to what I am dealing with in relationships. And I just thought that, everybody like it like I do.
But the key that you said, like you said, is it has to be discussed in the beginning. Yeah. And I think people like, for me and like a lot of other people who got married young, you had to learn that as you go along. And that is like you said, that is strike one. That should be something that should be discussed in the beginning. And because we were raised in the church, it was so taboo.
Yes.
That nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about, sex drives and are you going to be compatible with your mate? And, nobody talked about those kind of things. So it's like you learn it as you go along. And sometimes it fails, the marriage fails because something as important as that wasn't discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And we don't discuss it, but we know that it's happening because we see evidence through the children that are being birthed, and these people are not married.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We know that John Henry and Suzanne Mary is living together. You know what I'm saying? And they're not married. But we don't want to discuss that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've learned in going through ministry is most pastors, and I know y'all probably gonna get me on this one, but I don't care. Most pastors will not preach on what they're struggling with.
No.
That's true.
If they're struggling with homosexuality, they're not gonna preach on that. If they're struggling with infidelity, they're not gonna preach on that.
Right.
That's true.
So we have to be so unorthodox in the sound room that we're trying to help everybody, because we have to face it. Everybody in the Bible was not trying to follow Jesus' way.
Right.
But we still have to give sound advice and doctrine that will be able to help them to find their way. Yeah. As long as I deposit, it's up to them to do what they need to do, but long as I deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to test drive the car before I pull up in my crib.
But when you say that though, you say you're going to test drive the car, right? At this age, you would, even though you saying you're going to test drive the car before you get married, you wouldn't necessarily just test drive whoever you're dating. You know what I'm saying? No. You're talking about somebody who you're engaged to, or
exactly.
Right. Because even though, what I mean, that's that's not what God would say, but
No.
because you definitely want to, if somebody's,
We have set a date.
yeah.
That's what right. I'm wearing the ring, not you giving me some promise that we gonna get married.
Right.
No, that ain't happening. I
Right.
literally got a ring, and this is bad. We already talked to the pastor. We in counseling. You know what I'm saying? Because in my dating state, I have different stages I look at when it comes down to relationships. I have the kicking it stage, which is the first stage, and that's where I'm getting to know somebody. We not in a committed relationship yet. Then when I began to date them, it's like now I'm being exclusive with this person, and I'm totally getting to know this person. There's nobody else involved, and then I go to commitment. Commitment is the last stage where now we have committed to each other. We ready to get married, and we the sky's the limit for the couples. Okay, we is the bomb. We the best couple in the world. No other couple exists.
Yeah.
That's how I view. But in my kicking the stages, we're not gonna be just sitting up parlaying. I'm not being so unorthodox. I don't pass out sex like we play a spade game.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing the possible.
Right.
That ain't how we rolling. Okay, because this right here is sacred. Okay. But I just think that with her question, because I asked her, I said, well, did y'all talk about sex before y'all got married? Did y'all discuss certain things? And she wasn't she wasn't willing at first to admit it, but then she admitted that she wasn't, but she just assumed that he would be able to do what she wanted him to do. And I believe that people are coachable.
Absolutely.
About it. But now you said something that was so powerful. You said that your ex-husband, he treated you like crap, but the sex was good, right? But even before y'all hooked up, you still had to learn each other's language for sex.
Absolutely, yes.
Because you wasn't the girl that he had before, and I wasn't the girl that my ex-husband had before, and Joanna, you wasn't the girl that your husband had before. So you guys learn each other's language. What did he say?
Oh, you hear him in the background?
Yes.
Talking trash.
So you guys had to learn each other love language, and that means that you had to be so open and exclude. That's why I tell people who are entering into marriage, if you have not healed from previous relationships, you don't need to be trying to go into something new, because you don't want him to do what Paul did, and his name is Saul.
That's right.
And you can't put that expectation on him based off of what your experience had. Oh, I don't want this from him. I want him to be like Paul sexually, but I just like him on these other areas.
No.
His name Saul. That don't work like that.
No.
That don't work like that.
Not at all.
So what we are saying is, before you enter into anything, you need counseling. You guys need to discuss what that looks like for you personally. And then move on from there. Because if sex is gonna be your deal breaker, you never had a deal in the first place.
Right.
And that's real talk. You never had a deal in the first place. Okay, let's go to the next question. These questions, they crack me up, man. People just Juana, this is for you. And you can still answer it too, Vanessa. But what was your expectation for your partner before you married him?
I was 24 when I got married. So I believe at that age, I think I was still kind of like, I would say naive, and just kind of like, still kind of like in that woo-woo phase, that, feeling good about being with somebody. But I think the only expectation that I really had, I would say at that time, is that I just expected him to be a family man. That was probably the major expectation that I had. And with that being said, just I would say like a family man, a provider, a great father. Those were the things. I think that was, at that time, that was probably my biggest expectations. Now it would probably be a little bit different. You know, with me being 41, it's a major difference at this point. But then, you know, I didn't even understand the whole covenant thing. You know, even being grown up in the church, nobody ever explained that to me. It just was a whole lot that I didn't even know. You know, so at that time, my thing was probably just that fantasy that you see, that you think you want. That's what my expectation was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Renee, sound off.
So I was 24 also when I got married. However, I had a 5-year old and I was pregnant. So my expectations were a little different. We were in the church. I was a part of praise and worship. He was a musician in the church. So it's like, oh, shoot, we got to save face. You know, we're in ministry, we're before the people,
And
you
y'all
know. So,
music together, literally, huh?
yes, yes, girl. So, so honestly, I don't know what my expectations were at that point, other than we got to take care of these kids. My parents at that time had been married 20 plus years. His parents had been married 20 plus years. So, but our examples were different. My parents never fought around us. His parents split up, they fought, they cheated on each other. So we both came into it very different. But my expectation was, again, as Joanna said, what I had seen coming up. You know, a man that worked, he provided. My mom stayed home and took care of 4 kids until my baby brother went to school. So that's what I saw. And that was part of my expectation. Everything else, I don't know what I expected. I just wanted my kids to have a 2-parent home at that point and to be right before the Lord, because I already had one child and now I'm bringing another child into the world, and my life is just, showing clearly before the people that it's not right. So I wanted to make things right with God, if that makes sense. But aside from coming into the marriage and what I expected, I don't really know. I was so young. Now, of course, at 43, my expectations would be completely different
Mm-hmm.
coming into, going into a marriage.
I spoke about in the sound room earlier today. I spoke about life after divorce, and you said something that was so prominent that sometimes you go into a relationship in a deficit versus in an advantage because of your
Yes,
upbringing and your past
yes,
and your lack of knowledge, uh, naivete, as Joanna said. My expectations was for my ex-husband to help me pay bills. That was my expectation. But now at 46, that ain't enough because I can do that by myself. You
right.
understand what I'm saying? Um, I didn't, and then not only that is I didn't know what love was, so I
Right.
couldn't expect something that I had no knowledge of, if that makes sense. And Joanna, you touched on that. You can't give something that you don't have, and you can't expect something that you don't know. And
Yep.
so, what I can say now is that now I know what love is, and God had to share with me through my sabbatical of being by myself without a man, is that Jesus became love. He didn't do love. And a lot of times we're having lust confused with love, and we're thinking
Yes.
that because you're fulfilling my lustful desire that you love me, and that has nothing to do with love. Love is patient, it's kind, it doesn't keep score. And even when that man getting on your nerve, and or that woman getting on your nerve, you love adjust to cover that. And so Jesus adjusted to cover us on the cross. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? With the blood that was shedded, and didn't keep score. And so he demonstrated that, and he came in the flesh and demonstrated that. And so I took it as now I know differently. I know that a marriage is not a contract. It's not if you do what I say do, then you good. But if you don't do what I say do, then you're not good.
Yeah.
That's not what a marriage is.
Not at all.
It's a partnership. It is you becoming one with the person. So my advice would be before you enter marriage. Like this time when I enter marriage, I'm not just gonna have counseling from a pastor, but I'm gonna have counseling from a therapy from a regular therapist, a licensed therapist, because I think you need the balance of the two
Yeah, I definitely agree.
to be effective and being the best you that you can be in that marriage. Because this time, with my level of maturity, because of experience and what I've seen, I'm not gonna enter marriage lightly.
Right.
I'm going to enter
Absolutely.
marriage with much wisdom and much counsel when it comes down to being somebody's wife, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like to choose somebody to be your wife. That's something special, and I don't think that we know the value of what that looks like. So I can't. Me and my homeboy, and this is my homeboy. We've been friends for years, and we was having a conversation, and he asked me a question. I said, most men, the women they meet already come standardized. That's why they don't have to lower their standards. Why? Because we've already experienced certain things, and so we already come with a house, we come with a car, we come with money, we come with a job, we come with a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So you don't have to lower your standards because she already comes standardized.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to some men, because we as mamas have made our sons our little boyfriends and our little love muffins, and we expect
Yeah.
them to be men. So a lot of times we have them coming from their mama couch to our crib.
You're
So they
right.
come from a
You
mama
are
couch
right.
to sugar mama.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a crutch for them when it comes down to being a man. So
Yeah.
it's 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 not trying to put down men, but it's trying. What I'm trying to do is to get mothers to step up and let their sons go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They gotta be men. Don't nobody want to be nobody's sugar mama. We gotta learn how to be able to handle this house together. And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
one thing that I can say. Now I do love my sons. I love my daughters. And I'm very meticulous about who they date. And they people that they date will tell you that I'm meticulous. Because I produce good stock. And I don't want no bullcrap coming to pick up my good stock. So we gotta have
Yeah.
some conversation. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So my advice would be you need to lend your ear to wise counsel. Wise counsel is people like now when I get married, I would be friends with a couple that has been married 60, 70 years. I would look for somebody like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? To help me through tough times. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Because you've been married 60, 70 years, baby. You done been through the pandemic ain't nothing compared to what you done been through.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a whole lot that went down.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So
They had the pandemic.
yes, pandemic was nothing for your marriage. Y'all was already been through some stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we would advise that you would get wise counsel, be mature in your approach on it. I too with you, Joanna. It was just good to say I had a husband. Didn't know who
Yeah.
my husband was, girl.
I mean, yeah, and like I said,
Didn't have that.
right. I think that's what it. To be honest with you, I think that's what it was because even I wasn't. Even I had a daughter before I was married. I had my daughter, and I didn't have any other relationships before my daughter's father. So I still was naive. I still didn't understand, relationships.
Yeah.
But um, it was just like you said. I really think that's just what it was, just to say that you had a husband. You know what I mean? That when you're raised up in the church, that's all you hear. You need to get married. You need to get married. You need to get married.
Yeah.
So and my situation was different because when I married my husband, even though he was 25, he was already had his own.
Yeah.
He already had everything. You know what I mean? He was already in the workforce. He already understood what it was to take care of stuff. So I didn't go.
Which is actually how it should be. Because Adam
Yeah.
had everything in place before God even brought Eve to
That's right. He
baby,
sure
I can teach
did.
the heck out of that, okay? No, I can teach the hell out of that. All right?
Yeah. So it was different for me. I was going into you know, I was still trying to finish up college. You know, I was still living with my mother and my father. So I was moving into his home. So it was like, okay, I'm moving. It was a shift. It was a big shift for me because I went from being a daughter to being a wife.
Right.
And not only my child, but he had a daughter too. So it was automatically, I went from being a mother to a daughter to a mother to two girls.
Right.
Wow.
So it was a major shift for me at 24. That, you know, I grew up really fast. You know, I went from not growing up as fast to growing up fast.
That's a big
so I had to mature really. I had to mature really fast. But because I wasn't active, you know, because I wasn't active, even though I had my daughter, I was only with her father. It still was a shit. It was a shift for me because I still was naive. I didn't really know much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
And that's a huge. That's like a shocker.
Oh, it was.
Especially
It was a shock because, you know, that's blended families. That's a whole nother conversation. That
leads into another question.
I could teach on that for all day, all night.
The next question was, and it's so good that you lead us into the next question, which we have answered this question before on the panel, but they put it back again. Do you think it's good to live with a person before you marry them?
You say that again?
Do you think it's good to live with a person before you marry them?
I'm gonna say no.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no because I literally didn't. I moved in. It was 2 months before the wedding. 2 months before the wedding. Say it again.
You lived with him before you said I do.
Literally 2 months before, and the only reason why.
What you did.
Yeah, the only reason why we did, you know, it was 2 months before the wedding. Only reason why I moved in is because I had a job that was in the area. So I said, okay, you know, I'm starting my job. I started my job September, and we got married October. So it was like around August, September, something like that. And we got married October. But, you know, the wedding was already set. Everything was already, you know. So I wouldn't suggest it only because, to be honest with you, whether you live with that person or not, before or after, it's gonna take you a while to get to know that person and you're gonna be learning that person for a while.
That's true.
You know, you're gonna be learning that person. You're gonna be learning, you know, who they are, what you don't like. That's a long process. So for me, I really think it's a waste of time to do that because I think, in my opinion, it's going to prolong the situation because you're going to keep getting into relationships. You're going to move in, you're going to move out, you're going to move in because you're not realizing that what you're dealing with is what you're going to deal with regardless. You know, you're going to deal with that, you know, so it's not, to me, I don't think it helps. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Vinay?
So now at my age, I would. Previous to that, because of what they taught in the church, that you should not shack, I was so against it. But number one, I ain't never seen that in the Bible. Let's just be real. I've never seen that in the Bible. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, but second to that, I want to know what I'm dealing with because I'm very anal about the way that I like things to be. And I'm not going to just move in with any Joe Blow. Like, you know, we're dating, we're getting a little serious. Let's move in together. No. If we're in a committed relationship and we know that we're leading into marriage and we're leading into a future, then yes, let's talk about it. You know, if it's going to make life easier for both of us, let's talk about it. But aside from that, no, I wouldn't because I like my quiet. And because I am going through the change, my moods change too. So if you can't handle that, then stay at your place. I'll stay at mine. We'll meet in the middle somewhere whenever we meet.
Do y'all think though? Let me ask you this: you don't think that in the court? Because let's keep it real. First of all, if you want to be thinking about marrying somebody, he at this age, especially, maybe not when you were younger, but at this age, he or she better have their own at this age.
Absolutely.
Right. So you don't think that you can get to know the person by spending time with them in their own environment and them spending time with you in your own environment and seeing how they live. And I mean, because you gonna have your nights where you stay the night, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all enjoying each other's company. You don't think that you can get to know that person that way?
Yeah, I I totally think that that can happen.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that. I think that that can happen, but I think from my perspective is um, before I will move in with somebody, we have had to set a date of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
that we're actually getting married. And I think 6 months to 3 months prior to the marriage, yes, I would enter into living with that person. But we've already set a date. Everything is already in place,
Yes.
right?
So is the moving in for the sake of, is this just a last minute check to make sure that it's gonna work, or
No, no, it's
what's
not a
the point?
last minute. It's not a last minute because when I commit, I commit. We get
Hmm.
married.
Okay.
We ain't no bagging out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I think with that is, to me, that would be more of a sealing of the deal for me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
My perspective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I, coming from a woman who have been living by myself for the last past 11 years,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we get so set in our ways that
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
adjusting for somebody else coming in to share my car. Y'all know I'm a shoe person. You know Joanna. You know,
Yes.
y'all know my
I
shoe
know you.
game is crazy.
And them toes be done, okay?
Hello.
The toes be
All the
done.
time.
So, it's like I gotta, adjust my closet to give them
Girl, yes.
having all this. So, sometimes we can get so set in our ways that them moving in right after we get married will be like a slam.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
yours would be more for an adjustment period for
yeah,
you.
and
It would be more for
sometimes slamming somebody can take them into a shock that they make a unconscious, ignorant choice because of the slam. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So certain what works for one person may not work for another person,
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
to me, I would want us to go into entering a place that is ours together
Right.
versus
Okay.
me moving into his or him moving into mine. Sometimes men don't want to move into your space because they feel
Mm-hmm.
like they won't be the man. And I'm not saying
Right.
that all men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So us going into entering into a place where we both are on the lease and we both are it's both our mortgage and we doing this thing together, then we can enter into a fresh, clean slate, right?
True.
Where there's no hindrance from what has happened in his apartment before I got there or what has happened
Right.
before I got
Absolutely.
there, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
It'll give me the opportunity because I just let men know off the top, I'm not going to be sneaking no shoes in. And then I'm at a point now, my mind's so broad that I'm gonna see y'all walking in some Erica Nicole's
I ain't mad at you.
Okay.
shoe line. You understand what I'm saying?
Listen.
And so it's just certain things that I will have to adjust to because I have become so conducive to living by myself, making my
Mm-hmm.
own rules and doing my own thing for so long to come into a place where now we do this thing together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
now
I
I
understand what you're
have
saying.
my space with him. And so I don't think that you need to move in like soon as y'all start dating. No, I don't
Mm-mm.
think
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a no-no.
but
Yeah.
I do
Absolutely.
believe
Another.
that within that period of y'all right before be right before the wedding, I do believe
Mm-hmm.
that you guys should enter. I will enter into moving with him, and I will be open to moving in with him before marriage because I want my husband to be free in me and free in our home because he's
Mm-hmm.
the head of our house. I want him to be free to make decisions. I don't
Yeah.
want I don't want him to feel like he has to be fighting with different spirits that has already taken place here. And
Yeah.
now we gotta try to, no kid. Me and my kids have already had discussions about this man. They have already met him. They already understand his position in our home. They will honor his position in our home. I just want to allow certain things to happen, and I want him to be free. So I think that that should be something that should be discussed, and I think that should be something that should be entered in wisely and not just carefree.
Yeah, and
You've
just
never
like
had to have, Erica, you've never had a blended family, have you?
No.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Whew.
not necessarily. Not necessarily because my ex-husband had children before me. He had two sons before my kids, right?
Okay.
But his oldest son lived with us for a minute. I was raised in the house that there's no his and her kids. I don't believe
Right.
in her kids. I
Yeah.
believe that if we marry, these are our kids.
right.
Mm.
Whatever this mother says that she needs for these kids, we're gonna provide. Because I
Right.
don't want it to ever come back on that my husband is a deadbeat dad or that my
Right.
husband don't handle his business.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always raised because even though my mom didn't marry my dad, my and I don't use stepdad, you know, because when I got married, both of my dads walked me down the aisle because my two dads were friends. You understand?
Mm.
When
Mm-hmm.
my dad would bring me home, they would sit on the porch and drink together. They was kids. You know what I'm saying? They was kids together. My dad will give more money than he was supposed to because they dad will treat me like I was their daughter. If he went and bought for them, he went and bought for me. So I don't believe in his and her.
Right.
If we say we together, everything is ours.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and right today, my husband kids, even though me and my ex-husband is divorced, they still call me mama. They
Mm-hmm.
still respect my position
Exactly.
because I've raised them and because I treated them like they were my sons. They were
Yeah.
not his sons. They were our
Right.
sons. So
Exactly.
I've never had the mindset of his and her kids.
Oh yeah, definitely no.
No,
Mm-mm.
and that's because like my brother, my brothers, my brothers have married into families where the first kid was not theirs. You can't tell
Right.
because that's how we was raised. We don't believe in his and hers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even though me and my ex-husband is divorced, his family, I'm still their niece, I'm still their daughter-in-law, I'm still their cousin, I'm still,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in his and her kids.
Yeah.
If
Definitely not.
my husband's sons or my sons call me because my husband's oldest son, he uses me as wise counsel.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to him, he's son. That's not my husband's son. That's my son.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that's my son. So I just don't believe in his and her kids. I don't believe
Yeah.
no. So I went in the with that. My ex-husband had an advantage because I didn't go into that mindset.
Yeah.
Go into the marriage with that mindset, and I don't, and in my what I can say, Joanna, is the woman that I am today, baby. I'm so phenomenal. And I'm not saying that from an arrogance position. I'm saying that because I have made so many mistakes, Joanna.
Yeah.
But Nay, I have had made so many
All
mistakes
of us. You ain't the only one.
that
No.
now those things don't even enter my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like our pastor, I was interviewing my pastor, and my pastor said something, and this is the truth. He don't know how to not believe in faith. I
That's
don't
good.
I don't know how not to believe that I'm a wife. I don't know
Yes.
not how to believe that I'm a mother. I don't that don't even enter into my mind because it's
Right.
who I am. It's a part of my
Yes.
DNA.
Yes.
And so and that's another issue that I'm having with this couple is that she sees his kids, but she wants him to see their kids. That make no sense. Do you
No.
understand what I'm saying? So
She said, what she say?
she sees his kids as his kids, but
Oh,
she
okay.
wants him to see their kids
As
to see
their
her
kids.
kids as their kids.
I see what you're saying.
Do you understand
No.
what I'm saying?
That's double standards.
That's exactly, Vinay, and that's what we run into. And so that's just not who I am. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, when she wants me to give her certain advice, I can't. I give wise counsel.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna agree with you because you're a female.
So
I
Yeah.
don't
you gotta give counsel that's gonna bring peace to that home.
Absolutely.
exactly. And Joanna, me and you have had conversations. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where I'm speaking life into your situation because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you are in that situation, you can't see the lifeline. But because
Exactly.
you are on the outside, that has wise counsel will show you how to get to the lifeline. And now,
Yeah.
right, I'm still married to my husband. Now, it ain't always been wine and roses.
Not at all.
Baby, this nigga was like, let me tell you, Erica, do you understand what I'm saying? But now you know that you have somebody that can help you, that's not intimidated by your position as a wife, not
Mm-hmm.
intimidated by who you are, but wants to see you winning it.
Yeah.
Right? And Vinay, in our situation, we've been there, we've done that, and now we're the lifeline for each other, because sometimes you get so caught up in your everyday life that you miss some stuff.
Yes.
You miss some stuff. And that's just real talk. So when I'm calling somebody, I'm like, God, well, I don't know if I'm getting it. So, give me somebody who can help me with this from a wise perspective. And God will drop a person in my spirit, and I will call
Mm-hmm.
that person. That person will
Mm-hmm.
give it to me. And that person will tell me, like Joanna, you my friend. Vinay, you my friend. If I'm wrong, I know for a fact you guys gonna be like, nah, sis, you wrong. But let's look at it from this perspective. Right? You're not
Yeah.
gonna put me down because I'm wrong, but I'm gonna listen to you because I know that you have my best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just want to be heard and they don't want to listen
Right.
because they just want to be right. But
Yep.
sometimes we're not always right. We not. We miss it sometimes. So now I work so much on being a better me, that I don't know how to not be what God wants me to be
Yeah.
for the
Mm.
plan that He has for me. So I don't speak death into who I am. I've been resuscitated. So every time that I speak about Erica, I'm gonna be like, Erica's the bomb, baby. You ain't gonna get no better than this. Okay.
That's right.
Why? Because I sit and I allow the spirit to correct me. But not only that, but my friends are there to correct me.
Yeah.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna go wrong because I have
Yeah.
wise counsel. I know what that looks like now, versus taking counsel from a miserable hooker around the corner.
Yeah. And you're saying something there, because we have to be careful who we talk to. Because now that I'm in a different phase of my life, I've started to realize some of the people that I depended on, the stuff that they're saying, it's not, number one, it's not aligning with my spirit. And then number two, they're only telling me based off of their opinion and not being truthful, not being transparent, just not being honest. And that's not what I need. So I've had to redirect my conversation,
Yep.
or I've just had to say, you know what, God, let's just talk about it,
Yep.
because I can't depend on other people's opinions right now, not at this season in my life. I can't. So if it's not you, and it's not coming from somebody that you've sent to have, this conversation with me, then I don't want to hear it. And
Yeah.
that's just where I am. So I'm very limited on who I talk to and what I talk to them about.
Yep.
I have people that call me, some friends call me every day, and that's fine. We will chop it up on a surface level.
Yep.
But I would not talk to you about certain things that are going on in my life, because number one, you still have younger age kids at home, or our lives are just different.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you don't understand where I am to be able to pour into me in that way.
And that's real.
you
Mm.
know and so another thing that you said I wanted to respond to as well, when you were talking about getting married and having counsel from the pastor and having counsel from a therapist, you also mentioned having somebody that you may be an accountability partner. I think it's important to have two accountability partners, one that's been married for many years, one that's been married just a few years,
Yep.
because you can learn something from each of them. So when I do get to that place where I'm journeying and moving toward marriage, we will have two people, like two couples, that we'll lean on, that we'll sit and we'll talk to about the struggles that they've had over this 20 or 30-year marriage. Most of my friends are 50 and older anyway, so they've been married for a long time.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I have some friends that just got married in October. One just got married January 21st. So their struggles are going to be a little bit different. And that's going to be wisdom that we can use as we're moving into our own marriage and our own relationship. So
Real
I
talk.
see things from a different perspective now, from 24 to 43. My perspective and my views on how I want to do things and how I would like to do things are very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I believe that this is me, and this may sound crazy. I believe you can live together and not have sex.
I don't know if I can. I don't think I can do that.
Listen, the last 2 years that I lived with my ex-husband, I did not touch him sexually.
And as I was departing my marriage, we weren't having sex either. We were
for
just
2 years.
It wasn't 2 years, honey, but
Wow. Woo.
And I have dated somebody where I went to their house and we didn't have sex. I was like, I can sleep on the couch. He was like, you sleep in the bed, I sleep on the couch. And then the next morning he got up, he cooked breakfast and all that, but he still wasn't one for me, baby. Trust me. Needless to say, that's why I'm still single. Okay. But I believe that can happen. I don't believe that when you living with somebody, that living with them is sin. Living with somebody is not sin, but I do believe in like what you do. Your act is sin.
Yeah.
Your thoughts are sin. Because
Mhm.
the Bible says, if you thought it, you've already done it.
Exactly.
Right.
So I believe that. Now, are you asking me the question that will I live sin free for them 3 months? Probably not. Now, if my husband to be chooses that we do that, then I will honor that.
Yeah, I think it only works if both people are in agreement to do that. I don't think it's going to work if one person is really struggling because the other one is already struggling. So if so if you got one person that's only one person is in agreement to do that, I think they're going to lean on the other one, and it's not going to really work. To me, it only works if both people are in agreement to do that.
Well, let me share something. So my best friend just got married January 21st. She and her now husband, they decided probably 4 to 6 months. They weren't even engaged yet. They weren't living together, but they were at each other's houses all the time, spending the night for days and weeks at a time. They made a covenant with each other that they would have hands above the covers. So they slept together, but like in the same bed, but they weren't having sex. Me and my other friend was like, girl.
But you don't need no hands above the cover. All you gotta do is, lay in the spoon position, and you that ain't got nothing to do with your hands.
You said the hands above the covers ain't got nothing to do with the hips under the covers.
All you gotta do is back it up. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying that. Again, I'm being silly, but I'm being serious. If my mate, if that's was something that he desired, I will honor that. Because he's the head of our family now, and God, I trust, and I'm not going to be with somebody that doesn't listen to God in the first place. And I believe that God speaks to my man. You know what I'm saying? So I will honor him with everything, and I will be so humble. Now, I'm not going to tell him that it's not going to be easy. We're going to have to get us some pajamas, drawstrings, and I ain't going to be able to be sexy. Okay? But I will honor him on not yielding and giving him sex. I will honor that because at the end of the day, sex is not the priority. God is.
Right.
And as long as God is leading him, I trust and I have faith that the God that I have will not send me somebody that would not be compatible with me from where I am now and from where I am. So we will already have that clear understanding.
Right. Yeah.
The next question, y'all, this is a good one. Would you allow your mother-in-law to move in?
It depends.
Y'all got quiet. Both of y'all was looking like.
So Yes. So I'll jump out on that first.
Okay.
So my ex-husband's mother, no, I would not have, because she was very controlling. She wanted to dictate. She's very vocal, and she feels like, well, I'm just trying to give you wisdom, but you're in my business and you're crossing boundaries. Like, we're adults. We got to raise our children the way we choose to, and she always wanted her input no matter what. Even so, to the point when we got ready to divorce, she told me, y'all young folks are just so quick to divorce. Ma'am, he's been having an affair for 11 years. What do you want me to do?
Girl, that's my
Hello.
family.
So in that case, heck no, she couldn't live in my house. No. Now we can have what they call a mother-in-law suite in the back. You can cook, you can do all that on your own, but you cannot be in here where we are. So, depending on who I marry, the next time when the Lord sees fit for that to happen, I pray that is some, because I'm also in healthcare. So I also realize I work in home health. The elderly get to a point where they're not able to take care of themselves.
Exactly.
I see it every day, all day. So if we come into a situation like that where she's not able to provide, for herself and do the things that she needs to do on a daily basis, absolutely. Because I'm going to be the first one to step up and say, no, she needs to come and be here. So I can oversee and I can make sure, that she's getting the care that she needs. So that's a different scenario. But prior to that, absolutely not.
Joanna.
I don't know why I feel like I'm about to have a cough attack. But my throat is really acting up, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, I'm gonna try to make it through this. But I would say, me and my husband have been married for 17 years. I would say yes with my mother-in-law. I would say yes because I would say we know each other so well at this point that we would know how to maneuver around each other. I would say in the beginning, there were some things that we had to get over. Like, like I said, being a blended family, me raising my husband's daughter, which is, she's my daughter because she was so young, when we got together. There were some things that we had to iron out because her being the grandma, my daughter was only, she was only 2 at the time.
Yeah.
So just, she just had some things that she wanted from my daughter, and I had some things that I wanted for her.
Yeah.
So there was just different things that we had to kind of like feel out. She wasn't like one of the mother-in-laws that would come in and tell me what to do on my house and stuff like that. She was very giving, but we just ran into some little hiccups here and there, and yeah, I would definitely allow my mother-in-law to move in. Yeah. And I think that if she moved in, one thing I do know is she's very headstrong, and she's very, she has her things that she likes to do. That would probably be a little difficult for me to get used to. But other than that, I definitely would have to say yes. It would definitely have to be yes for me.
With my mother, I probably want to live in her house because she got a fat crib. Okay. And I move in with you. Okay. With my mother-in-law, I think during this particular time, she would be the best person for me. And let me tell you why I say that. Me and my mother-in-law, we had only one hiccup, and that one hiccup was the influence of my brother-in-law's ex-wife. But from the time I met my mother-in-law, I was her daughter, because she never had any daughters, right? She only had sons. When I say my mother-in-law, Sue Ann Reynolds is the best mother-in-law ever. She never got him into in business. She always uh, tried to talk to her son about the things that he would do out of order. Do you understand what I'm saying? She too is headstrong, but because of what we experienced, she's lost her mom. I lost my mom. My mother-in-law checks on me right today. You know what I'm saying? She's still my mother-in-law, even though me and her son is not together. But my mother-in-law, man, her can kick it. When I tell you, baby, we can kick it. And you talking about a lasagna made from scratch out this world.
Let me. Oh, my mother okay.
Baby,
Broke down. Don't get the game twisted.
I had a mama.
That would be the best part. I would have another cook in the house.
Now that is the truth.
And look, if I called her today, like I told her, I called her yesterday, and I said, "Hey, Trinity is turning 16," and she was like, "Oh my God, already?" And I said, "Can you make us a lasagna?" She was like, "Yeah." If I called my mother-in-law and tell her I was coming home tomorrow to make me something, she would do it. So I didn't have, Vinay, I didn't have my mother-in-law was actually a good mother-in-law. You know what I'm saying?
I would say mine is too.
I didn't have no drama with her. She was just an amazing person, as well as my mother was to my ex-husband, because, I mean, my ex-husband could go to my mama's house and me and him ain't together no more. You know what I'm saying? My ex-husband kicking with my family for Christmas. And I went So I would say, depending on your relationship with her, because you have so many mothers that won't let their sons go. And they want to try to control every freaking thing when it comes down to their sons. Like my oldest son, his girlfriend thinks that I won't let my oldest son go. That's not the issue with my oldest son. The issue with my oldest son is you crazy as a mother. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's a difference between giving sound and wise advice to your son, because my son don't live with me. I want them to get out and do their own thing, right? My younger son, this summer, he's moving back to Texas. And I only moved to Tennessee. My plans to come to Tennessee was to help take care of my dad. You know what I'm saying? But my dad ended up passing. And since my dad ended up passing, I wasn't going to I don't want to still be caught up in the lease here and then have to go back to Texas, pay a lease in Texas, pay a lease. That's too much. And then plus Trinity had already, but I want my kids to go off and do your thing. Please. I can't wait to be you, Vinay. Look, my car, you know what I'm saying? My car wheel just like this. I'm like, Trinity, find your way, baby. But as a mother, and I know that I was a mother-in-law, sometimes your picks don't be right. And because your picks don't be right, sometimes you just got to shut up until they ready to come to you and let you talk.
Right.
Okay. And so, oftentimes my daughter would come to me and ask me certain questions, but there was times that I just wouldn't respond because I didn't want her choice to be my choice.
Right.
And oftentimes mothers can't influence their children to make choices, and it will be the mother's choice based off of what the mother from the outside and not what the mother sees from the inside.
Yeah.
Of course, my mother-in-law, I would actually go and lay in her bed and let her hold me now because she knows what I'm going through. You understand what I'm saying? Renee, you know what I'm going through. People who have lost a mother, who has lost a dad, you can sympathize with me. But people who have not, you can only empathize with me. And that's a difference. Right. And so, but with my mother-in-law, yes, I would do that. Next question, y'all. Do you think finances is a number one leading divorce deal? Which means, do you think that finances in a marriage causes you to divorce your spouse? I guess that's what they say.
I would say yes. I would say the number one would be finances, and I would say sex would be number two. And I think number one would be finances because I don't think people are realistic with themselves when they think that love is going to keep a marriage together, and all the other romantic things are going to keep marriage together. Because for one, if you don't have finances to run a house, it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a hot mess. Now, how y'all come up with, whatever strategy works for your house might be different from my strategy. You know, your husband might be the breadwinner. He might be the one who's the breadwinner. You might be the stay-at-home mom. If that works for the both of y'all. But, you know, if it doesn't work for the both of y'all, then that doesn't work either.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, you know, in my house, it was always the both of us, but my husband always made them more money than me, even if it was just that if he was working 2 jobs and I was working 1. You know, he always brought in the bulk of the money. You know, the only time I didn't work is when I had, you know, babies. So I didn't have to work while I had my babies, but most of the time I worked the whole time, but I was always the helper, you know, because he would always say, I want you to have, you know, make sure you got more money in your pocket, do whatever you want to do with it. But it was always a team effort for us, even though he was the main, you know, the main person that brought in the most money. But that worked for us. But it wouldn't work for us, I don't think, if I wasn't at least helping, because in my opinion, I think women stress, a man is stressed, gets stressed out. A lot of times we don't see that, you know, but I believe as a woman, we should at least be able to help, unless we're home taking care of children that are newborns or doing whatever you have to do. You know, that's an exception, but to be a helper, I think is our place. That's my opinion.
Well, let's tie that into scripture. Proverbs 31 woman says that she was the first one to get up, and while her husband was at work, she handled business.
Yeah.
She made money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, whether he used it or not, it was there for the using.
Yeah.
Right.
You understand? So I don't want us to get I don't want people to think that we don't use scripture just because we don't literally say this is a scripture.
Yeah.
We are using scripture. Proverbs
No doubt.
Woman literally says this is what she did. She handled her business. She covered her family in the morning and she sealed them at night. She was the first person to hit the floor, and she was the last person that went to sleep because she knew how to pray and connect with God. And with her connecting with God, God showed her how to make money while her man was at work. But when they came home, and I want to be so clear with this on young people, this is where we mess up. This is where I mess up. When your husband and your family come to the crib, get off the phone with your girlfriend, your single girlfriend.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had one of my ex-pastors, he was very adamant. He was like, listen, if my wife don't want to work, she don't have to work. He was just like, because he felt like that was his full responsibility and he took care of all of that. She did not have to work. That was how he felt about his wife. He said if she wants to work and have her own money, that's on her. He said, but whatever she wants, if that's what she wants, then that's what I'm gonna give. So if that's how your house is ran. But we had 4 children in our house. And my brother and them had a whole heck of a lot of kids too. And I'm like, listen, I feel like, because I do have a degree and, I do have all of these things to add towards my household to help my husband to keep him from having to do more than what he needs to do. It's okay for me to work 1 job. I don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs because I have a job already, take care of my kids in my household.
Yep. My brother was so adamant with my sister-in-law with that. Not just my brother Clarence, but my other brother too. I have a brother with my dad, and that's another thing. My brother with my dad talk more to my brother with my mama than I do. Okay, they more friends. But anyway, that's just how our family was. But my brothers didn't believe in they women going out working 2 and 3 jobs. Mm-hmm. My sister-in-laws worked because they wanted to. Yeah. Not because they had to, right? And my brothers was adamant. My brothers, and it's because of how my dad raised them. My dad's raised them.
Can you get my water?
Is that the man takes care of the household. The woman is the support system.
Right.
She supports. But I get what you saying. That part, Joanna, Vinay.
So I'm going to start from the beginning. So it was similar to what the pastor, Joanna, did. My dad was in the military. There were 4 of us. So my mother stayed home. He provided for the family, the household. But of course, as times have changed and things have become more expensive, a lot of families aren't able to do that. So my first statement is everybody has to do what's appropriate for their home. And you have to discuss those things and have an agreement in the beginning. When I was married, I have a couple of degrees. So I generally did make more money, but at the same time, I still worked 2 or 3 jobs. I went to my full-time job. I worked for one company cleaning buildings. I had my own business cleaning houses because my ex-husband was very frivolous and selfish with his money. My thought process was, I have 2 babies in this house. I can't come home. Well, I did go home one day to the lights being off and I couldn't go into the garage. So after that, that's when I started working because I'm like, I have to make sure these kids are taken care of. So I did what I had to do. Even though I made more money, I still had to go above and beyond to make sure that my children and I were okay. That also meant separating my bank account because you jacking up everything for us. Like we can't eat, we can't pay bills, we can't pay car notes, we can't do any of this because you run around chasing tail. So in order for me to protect my children and to make sure that they can still eat and they have the things that they need, then I had to then put on my big girl panties, my pantyhose, and his pants, and get out there and make it happen. But in reality, what happened and what tore our marriage apart was I lost respect for him.
Yeah.
I lost respect for him. And so my mouth is real fly, and it would fly off the handle. And he'd be like, "You don't have no respect." No, I don't, because you're not acting like the man. I'm wearing my pantyhose and your pants. All I want to do is put my pantyhose and my skirt on. And I want to be a lady and I want to cross my legs with my red bottoms on, okay? But I don't want to have to put your pants on, and all, that I'm weighed down because I have too much. So, of course, now again, going into something else with the gentleman that I was seeing before, that's one thing that we talked about. He's like, I make enough money and we will live beyond, live within our means based on my income. Your money will be, that's just bonus money. We can travel, we can shop. But he was like, my take on it is, I'm the man. I take care of the household. You work if you want to work. If you don't, you don't. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I know now that those conversations have to be had in the beginning. You have to establish those things from the beginning, because if you don't, you have nothing. Love is not enough. Sex is not enough to keep a marriage together. It's absolutely not.
That's life after you get out from them 10 minutes of sex, okay?
Yeah.
You like, now let's talk about this electric bill. But my thing is, I mean, the reality of it is too, I don't think that sometimes people are still kind of funny to me, because even if the man tells you that you don't have to work, if he's not bringing in enough money, that's not going to work either.
It's not.
Nah, bro. When you get there, when you get to the point to where, I can stay home and maybe do some things, maybe, work in the home and make sure that everything, because the bottom line is we got to make sure the home is take care of whether we working or not, period. So we don't really have a choice in that matter.
Right.
But, I think it just has to be, you have to use wisdom. I do not believe that a woman should be working 2 and 3 jobs if they don't have to.
Right.
Because it's so much, you got so much going on in the household, especially if you have children. It's so much to do, that I believe one job is enough because you got your job in the house. And then I also believe you should be working because, like she said, you can do things like, I was able to take my husband to Puerto Rico. I paid for the trip because it was something that I wanted him to have. I wouldn't have been able to do something like that. We wouldn't have been able, we can't do extra stuff if he's the only one bringing that money. Not unless he was, a millionaire. Yeah. But, I was fortunate enough to have a man who never had a problem working. That's what they God did bless me with. We went through a lot of other things, but my husband has always been a hardworking man. Always he'll work 2 and 3 jobs with me. I don't have to tell him to do that. That's something that he learned. I believe he learned that from his father.
But another thing that you had in your husband, Joanna, was your husband was able to pick on stuff that was bull.
Mm-hmm.
When it came down to stuff outside the house, able to pick it up and be like, no, and address it from a man's perspective. That's what I didn't love about him, because certain situations he addressed it. You didn't. He looked. No, I'm going to this church and we gonna have a conversation. Okay.
Right.
You better go, Joanna's man. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Pray for me, girl. God gonna bless me. Because there's so many questions, we not gonna get to all the questions, but we're gonna do two more questions and then we're gonna be done. Okay.
Okay.
The first question to the last two questions is: does affirmation in your marriage matter? Does affirmation in your marriage matter from your husband, from your spouse? Does that matter? Joanna, hit first.
I would think for me, I'm not one of them kind of people that need to hear affirmation all the time. I think for me, I see it in what you do, and that's fine with me. I think that maybe because that's how I grew up. Like I knew my mom loved me because she for what she did for me. You know what I mean? She wasn't so much always I love you, Juwan. It wasn't always one of them. I was raised by my stepdad, so maybe it could have something to do with that. But I feel like on my part for my husband, I think definitely because I noticed because I didn't understand affirmation. I noticed as I got older, I realized that that was something that he appreciated, something that he would hear me affirm what he was doing. You working hard, you doing your best for the family. They want to know that. They want to know that they just you see what they're doing. That was something that I had to learn how to do and still working on doing. Even after 17 years, still working on learning how to do that. But for me, I'm more like you can be affectionate with me and I'm fine with that. You don't have to tell me, with words.
Okay. Renee?
I think that's depends on the person's love language. Like for me, I am a big person of words. So, and I believe that men need that. They need their ego to be stroked and they need you to say, oh, babe, you did a good job on the grass, or, thank you for cooking today. Thank you for putting gas in my car. I think that builds them up and lets them know, hey, you are the man in this house and I appreciate what you're doing. For me, I also like, words of affirmation, but I'm also a big actions person. So if you're showing me through your actions, that you love me and you value me and you appreciate me, I like to hear it, but I rather see it as well because your words can say anything, but your actions may say something totally different. So I'm more of an actions person, but I have found, when I was married and when I was just in this, previous relationship, he really needed that partly because his ex-wife wasn't that way. And then some of the things that have, occurred with his upbringing, and just as friends, I would just encourage him. And I noticed a change in him. And then as we begin to get to know each other and kind of get more into the dating side of things, then I realized that was something that he needed and he longed for. His mother worked 2 or 3 jobs as a single parent. He said she wasn't really affectionate, didn't really tell them she loved him, got into a marriage with a wife who really wouldn't initiate sex, didn't, value the fact that she didn't have to work for years because he did it. And so he needed that and he longed for it. So I think it just really depends on the person and their love language.
Yeah, I would concur with that, but I would say that men responds, and this is just talking to so many different men. They respond to you being their cheerleader. You know, baby, when my husband come, baby, I'm gonna be his biggest cheerleader. I'm gonna be make me an
Yes.
outfit, baby, with his initial on. Okay, give me a whatever his name is. Okay, you got your J, you got your E. You know. um, but for me, affirmation is important. Um, and I agree with both of you. I need you to show me, and I need you to tell me. Now, I don't need you to tell me 1,000 times a day that you love me.
Right.
You don't gotta tell me that. But and I don't want to have to prompt you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want that to just be your as we're getting to know each other and learning each other's love language. I just want you to know that this is just me, and I believe this. I don't care what nobody say. Nobody can make me believe anything different. I believe that me and my spouse is gonna be so in tune to each other that I can look at him and tell when he needs what he needs.
Mhm.
Because I'm gonna be so in tune with who God is and who He is that nobody's gonna be able. When I tell you, ain't nobody gonna be able to sneak up on that one. Okay,
Yeah.
he gonna be too tired. Okay, I'm like, nah,
Listen, I'm telling you now.
He'll be too
girl.
tired.
My wife is the bomb. But I think that a lot of times we get so caught up, and this is what I want to share with young couples as well as couples who are who are experienced and those who are now trying to be in the position of getting couples. I think we get so caught up in everyday life that we lose sight of us as a couple.
Yeah.
And you can't be so caught up in your everyday life that you lose sight of a couple. Like Joanna, you said you and your husband took vacations. Me and my husband never took time out to be with each other alone. You know what I'm saying? Because
We and the thing, I think we waited a little bit too long too, because we waited till years, and that was something I actually learned that from one of my pastors.
yeah,
He
it's
was
like
like, y'all need to take vacations.
yeah, because we went through so much of the hustle and bustle of life that it got so much to where it stressed us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That we forgot about who we needed to be for one another. But not
Yep.
only that, we went into the marriage at a disadvantage because we both had past experiences that we didn't heal from and didn't have the knowledge of how to be effective in our
Yeah.
marriage. I can say today I know how to be effective. I know how to stroke his ego. I know how to love him. And it's not just so much of being physical with him, but it's just
Yeah.
knowing who he is and
Mm-hmm.
doing that. A lot of times we as women, we think men don't like it that you say good morning to them. Hey, baby, have a good day. Baby, if my husband going to work before me, nigga, I'm hitting the floor before him. Okay? And in his little lunch box, it's going to be made with love.
Yes.
Okay? Girl, they gonna know me at Office Max because I got all the sticky notes, okay? Have a good day, baby. Baby, you is the bomb. Baby, you making it happen in this crib, baby. I'm your woman. Hey. And then I'm gonna spell it out. Give me a J, give me a whoever his name is. It's gonna be spelled out in letters.
Yep.
Have a good day. And then on his lunch break, he's gonna be like king of my castle. Because here's the thing that I learned. I learned to identify with me. I learned to allow God to expose me to me. But I also learned to be so vulnerable to be healed from me.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we don't know we're our own worst enemy,
Mm-hmm.
what we haven't been healed from.
Yeah. That is the truth.
And we take it into relationships where we try to make men jump through hoops that they was never designed to jump through in the first place. And the guy that I was dating, my pastor's son, when I was dating him, his mother said to, and I would never forget this, his mother said to his brother, because his brother was complaining about his woman that he lived with, didn't pay no bills. Okay? The mama, and she did it so smoothly, Joanna and Renee. She sat back and she just let him talk. And while she was talking, while he was talking, she was writing down stuff. She didn't interrupt him. Real smooth. She's a much older lady. And she said, son, I understand how you feel. She said, but let me ask you this. She said, what bills do you pay? I mean, how I'm sitting, this is how she was sitting at the kitchen table. She said, what bills do you pay? Like, no. He said, do you pick up the baby up from daycare? While she at work? Do you clean up the house? Do you cook a meal? And all these answers he had no to. So she said to him, she said, how can you ask for a 10 when you're not a 2?
Wow.
So since you've been blessed with a woman that's going to work taking care of you, which you should be working for yourself and taking care of yourself. Not only that, but you're dealing with a habit that you guys can't afford. And you come in to complain? She said, son, I need you to sit back. And I need you to really listen to what you're saying and look at what you got. You can't ask for a 10 when you don't even measure up to be a 2. And the wisdom from that, it sparked something in me that made me become a better me every day. You know what I'm saying? And I was just a fly on the wall listening to her conversation with her son. But it made me go out to say, how can I ask for somebody to have A1 credit and my credit shot? How can I ask for somebody to have money in the bank and I don't have money in the bank? How can
Yeah.
I ask for somebody to have a mindset of a college degree, but when I didn't have a certain level of college degree? Do you understand what I'm saying? So before you go and start asking for something, and I'm not saying that God won't give you what you ask for, because the Bible says, whatever I ask in faith, believe it, and attach it to his name, he said I can have it. Right? But what does that look like? What am I pulling somebody into by what I'm asking for when I haven't gotten myself together?
Yeah.
So I have learned, like doing my process, to work on me. And so when God is over here working on the man that he has for me, once he gets me, I'm gonna be able to go into buying a house with him that I don't have to worry about working on my credit. I'm gonna be able to have
Right.
backed up that I do. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I started a business that we can both store up for, so we can take vacations. You know, so my mindset with coming into marriage, I'm not entering it lightly.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So but when it comes down to the affirmation piece, I need the affirmation and the action. I need them to work hand in hand. But I don't want to have to prompt you to give me that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to have to prompt you to give me that. All right, and the last question. Now this is a good question. I never would have thought about this. Do you think that there can be jealousy in the marriage? That's a good question. That's
Mhm. It
actually a
is a
good
good
question.
question.
That makes you have to think. Do you think, and this is the question she said, I guess it's a she. Do you think, have you ever let your partner do something, or have your partner ever did something to make you feel jealous or angry?
I don't think we've had the jealousy issue. You talking about when it comes to like working and stuff like that?
Just period, in y'all relationship, period.
Um, I mean, I think it could be an issue depending on, you know, what type of person you are. If you're, I think jealousy can come in if you don't listen to what your partner what they feel is acceptable. Put it that way.
What do you mean by that? Elaborate.
Like if you're just say if you're like an outgoing person or whatever, right? And you like to talk to, you like to talk to people on the phone, or you're like, you like to have opposite sex friends, things like that. I think you can enter into a jealousy situation in that way. But if you guys come into an understanding of what's respectable and what works for your relationship, then I think you can work through that. Because I'm more of a friendlier type person. So I feel as though I could talk to people and it would be okay. But my husband, he's not one of them kind of people. He ain't, you're not gonna be having all these friends and people who he don't know about. He's not one of them kind of people. So I had to learn that real quick. So if you want to have friends or whatever, you at least let me, introduce them to me. Let me know who they are. Let's have that respectable line. I had to learn that real fast.
Renee?
I would say yes. Only because I think that was a little bit of a issue in my marriage, because I did have my degree. I was actually working on my second degree when we divorced, and he had only his high school education. And he was supposed to go to college, but he got someone pregnant in high school, so he opted military instead of school. And so I think that it did pose some jealousy. It never was spoken, but I think it did bring about some jealousy, because I did have the degree behind my name, and I also had better job offers because of that education, whereas he didn't. So again, it was never spoken, but his actions, sometimes would lead me to believe that he felt that way. So I had to kind of like shrink myself back, and of course try to, build him up as the man, to make him feel like, it's not, in all honesty, it really didn't matter who made more money, in my opinion, because it all goes into one pot. We have one household, we take care of our children, we take care of, the things that we need to when we're, on one accord. But I do feel that it did happen. And I think that it can in relationships. I really think that it can if you're not open about anything and everything, and just transparent. If you feel some kind of way, then say you feel some kind of way, because my perspective or my view may not even be what you're thinking or what you're feeling. So I think that's where it's important to have that communication, so you can kill those things from the beginning before they get out of hand and create bigger problems that really could be avoided.
Mhm. I'm a strong believer in and people get mad at me because I say this all the time. I'd be like, did you effectively communicate something? Because you can communicate something and not be effective. Effective means you're being transparent, you're being honest, you're being upfront, you're not beating around the bush, you shooting straight from the hip. In all honesty, I believe that there can be some jealousy if it is allowed to enter into the relationship by lack of communication, right? Because I believe that in getting a degree doesn't make you better than your husband or doesn't make you better than
Not
your
at all.
wife. It makes y'all better, period.
Right.
Right? Um, I believe that a lack of what your spouse does for you that is a need, which comes down to the affirmation. I believe that, or comes down to the action. I believe that that can open up an opportunity to make him jealous, because there was times that I was so immature that I knew certain things will make my ex-husband jealous, and because he wasn't giving me what I needed to make him jealous to get what I needed.
Mm,
I used it as a weapon, right? Which was wrong and out of order. So I believe that it can happen, but I believe that it can only happen if you allow it and if you ignite it. I don't believe that
Yeah.
it just automatically exists in the relationship if you have effective communication. That's why I say that nobody should enter into marriage without counsel. And then if you're in a relationship and you're trying to move to marriage, you need counseling. And if you are wounded, don't even enter into a relationship until you can get some help
no.
for yourself, because you're going to cause more damage than good. And here's the thing: damaged people don't become good until they get help. You can't fix yourself when you're
Mm-mm.
damaged. You need somebody to help you see some certain things, and it took me going through counseling to pull out of me that I was desensitized, is the word that they used. Raised in a house with boys, uh, I viewed things from a different perspective, even though I was a female. Certain things I just didn't feel like women should be tripping off of. Why? Because my brothers helped raise me, because my mom and my dad worked, right? And so my brothers then raised me from their perspective. So a lot of times I didn't show emotions. Like even in
Mm,
my grieving, um, this is the most vulnerable I've ever been, because my brothers was raising me. You ain't no punk. Chuck that up. Don't cry. You know what I'm saying? Because they did the best that they could as my brothers. And so my perspective looked a little different from the natural female, right? Because I was raised by males. And so certain things I was desensitized to, and I didn't understand that until my husband said it in our divorce. When he was like, "You didn't love me the way that I love you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But and then certain things I wouldn't be emotional about, right? Um, when my mom's brother, I didn't know he was not my uncle until I was in junior high school. I thought he was my brother, because my mom and her sister, their mother died at an early age, right? And so my mom them had younger siblings that was in our age group, and they lived next door to each other to help raise them. So I thought my aunties was my cousins, and I thought my uncle was my brother. But they was actually my aunties and my uncles, right? Because my uncle lived in the house with me, and my aunties lived in the house with my mom's sister. So we all grew up together because we was all in the same age group, right? And so my uncle, my uncle literally died a year. Him and my mother died a year apart. And my uncle did so much for me, right? And so I grieved him, but nobody saw me grieve because how I was raised by the boys is that I shouldn't show that. That's showing a sign of weakness, right? Um, then my mother passed. I didn't have a time because when my mother passed, I was beginning to grieve my uncle brother because that was the first person that walked me to school, first person that bought me my first ice cream, my first person that did anything to me because my mama worked, but my uncle was at home with us and helped take care of us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So between my uncle and my biological father, them was the first two men that I actually knew what a man was supposed to be. And so my mom passed a year after her brother, and I didn't have time to be vulnerable then because my mom was an amazing grandmother. I had my children in my house, then I had my brothers, and then I had everybody else that I had to be this strong person for. So I didn't have, because I was raised that that's how you should be by boys, I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to be a wife to him, right? I just knew how to survive and not to be a punk. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
so when I look at it, I knew how to be male slash female, but not female wife, right? And so he was looking for me to be his wife and to be supportive and to be those things. And those are the things that I couldn't give because I didn't know how to give them because I was raised by boys. And so this is the most vulnerable I've ever been in my whole entire life because was raised by boys and I wasn't raised to be vulnerable. I was raised to be tough and you don't show that you affected by nothing nobody do, right? And so I knew how to, and a lot of my friends are males, right? I have very few females that I can say I call friend. I can count y'all on one hand, literally. But the males is endless. You know what I'm saying? I can watch a game with you, pop a beer bottle with you. You know, we can scratch our stomach together. I can roll with the boys. You know what I'm saying? I can do that. But what I've learned in my healing process is that I'm not a boy, and it's okay to be a girl. It's okay to be me. And so when you have it, and I'm so happy that we had you on, Joanna, from your marriage perspective, you, Vinay, from your background perspective, and from my background perspective, because we all have to understand that when we're entering into a relationship, we're bringing everything with us. From our past, from our present, we're bringing it all in with us. And a lot of times we don't become healed from that. And we
Yeah.
can't be effective in the relationship. Now, granted, yes, was there infidelity on my husband's part? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I don't focus on what he did wrong. I had to focus on what Erica played, what part Erica played in it, and make sure that I don't play that part again. And so now I'm so careful about my dating life. You know how many people that try to fix me up with somebody? I'd be like, no, I'm good. No, thank you. Because they feel like I'm like the perfect person, but I'm the perfect person for what God has for me.
That's right.
And so I would never enter into a relationship to make my man jealous. I want to always make him feel secure. You know, like you're secure in me. Because sometimes we have to understand that some of our men, they need some assurance when it comes down to their wives. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they ain't been hitting the gym and doing the things that they've been doing. They just got to relax. You know, I'm like, baby, you still think I'm hot? Baby, I think you all hot. Let me rub your stomach for you, okay? Baby, okay? Look, we can do this thing together. And so I have examples in my life, in my brother's marriage and in my auntie's marriage, of what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? I I know what that looks like, and I know it's okay for me to be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I may not dress like a boy, but I had a boy mentality, but I always dress like a female. I love me some shoes and some clothes, okay? So, give me some good hair that I pay money for. Are you ready? Okay. So, I am so elated that you guys took some time out to be my guest today. But before we leave, Joanna and Vinay, I want you to give some sound advice on entering into a relationship and what you should, what you have learned from your experience, and how you can impart in them to make them either better in the relationship, see things differently in the relationship, and prepare for somebody to go into a relationship. Vinay, start
Let
with
her go first. I'm a plug up so I do not run out of battery.
Vinay.
All right. So the first thing I want to say is, first off, thank you for even thinking of me and asking me to come. I'm so like, it's such a pleasure to be here and just to be able to share, my experience because it hasn't been great, but I'm in a great place now. And it took me a very long time to get here. And, I want to be transparent and say I held on to all of the unforgiveness and all of the bitterness for a very long time. So if I were to give advice to anybody, my first thing is to say, you have to forgive. Number one, forgive the offender, forgive the person that hurt you, and forgive yourself for number one, allowing it for the time period that you did. And then forgive yourself for the things that you did that even hurt that individual, because we do have to acknowledge our errors in a relationship. It's not one sided ever. Everybody has a part to play whenever there's, a fallout in a relationship. So you have to be mature enough to find out what your part was in that relationship. And when you acknowledge that, then that's when you can move on to healing and you can move on to being a better person. So that's where I would say to start. Get some counseling, get some healing. If you're not in church, okay, that's fine. Find a counselor. It doesn't make you look weak to sit down and talk to somebody. It's actually a wise, mature person that will sit down across that couch or across the room from someone and have that conversation, to help you see things from a different light or a different view. So be okay with sitting down and talking to someone. Be okay with being honest. Be okay with being transparent first with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody else. If you are in church, then you need to get your face before the Lord, find out who he says you are, find yourself in Christ before you try to move into another relationship, because we lose ourselves in relationships as well, because the representative is so great in the beginning that by the time we want to impress, so we lose ourselves a lot of times when we're even in the courting and the dating process, so much so that by the time we get into marriage, we don't know who the heck we are. So stay grounded in who you are, stay close to God so that way he can continue to reveal to you who you are. But as you're exiting a relationship, you have to shed off all of that residue of the past, because as we've discussed over and over again tonight, we take those things into relationships. I actually read a book and it said 75% of your past relationships is what you take into another relationship,
It is.
whether it's good or bad. And if you don't take time to shed off the bad, then you're taking that into another relationship and you're going to penalize that new person, that man or that woman, for what the other person did. And they had nothing to do with it. They wasn't laying in that bed. They wasn't sitting in the car. They wasn't living in that house. So don't penalize the new person for what the old person did.
And the
So
Bible says you can't put new wine
in
in
old
old
wine skins. Yes. So heal, find yourself. I've been divorced for 7 years, as I stated. I did date for a little bit, almost got married about a year after, which was too soon because I wasn't healed and I was mean and I was disrespectful and he was inconsistent. So it just didn't work and it was good for me. I just exited another relationship that I've been in for 3 years. We want different things, but right now is the best time for me because why? I'm doing self-care so I can get to know me. My kids are not here, so I have time to get to know. There you go. Get to know who I am, the
Precious
things that I
State.
like. Yeah, because I was a wife, I was a mother, I was in ministry. You know, I was the team mom with all the sporting events. So I never had time for me. So right now, it's all about learning me, what I love, who I am, what I like, just rebuilding my love for myself and my love for God. So that is what I would say. But you have to start with forgiveness. You have to.
Joanna?
I would say the key factor is to make sure that you guys are on the same page spiritually. Um, have the counseling beforehand, like, and in the counseling, like we said, discuss the financial plan. Discuss, like you said, your sex life with what's going to work for the both of you guys. Um, if there's children in in place beforehand, discuss how you're going to raise the children.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that's discussed on your parenting styles, what's acceptable, what's not.
Okay.
I would say during the marriage, be careful not to put the children before the marriage. Make sure that when you get into the marriage, that the children don't take the place of your marriage.
Yes.
Be sure to set aside date nights. Be sure to set aside money for vacations to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to invest in the marriage and not just in the children, because children can take up so much time, but before you know it, you done invested 15 years, your whole first 15 years into the kids and not into the marriage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say have continuous counseling during the marriage,
Yep.
just to discuss things, just to have somebody who can be a mediator with you guys to maybe discuss things that might be a little difficult.
And be careful
Um,
who you get that advice from too, though.
yes, make sure that's somebody who's not biased to either one,
Yeah.
but can listen to both sides. And I would say just do whatever you can to keep the marriage spicy, keep it interesting, keep it fun,
Yeah.
and that would be my advice.
And I want to add something to what you said, Joanna, too, because, and you can probably attest to this, I'm sure you can. You got married at 24. You said you're 41 now. You're
Mm-hmm.
24, the 24-year-old Joanna's needs are not the same as the 41-year-old Joanna
It is not.
needs.
Exactly.
So that's where that communication comes into place. I understand that now. I didn't understand that when I was married, when I was married, but you have to keep that communication because your needs change.
Yep.
You
Mm-hmm.
evolve, over time. So 15 years down the road, you're not the same person.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I think that that's really important for people to understand too, is you have to communicate your needs
Yep.
as you're evolving and you're changing.
I would say for people who are considering marriage, don't be impulsive.
Oh yes, definitely.
Um, you don't want to get married just to say you married or because your friends got married. You know, that's impulsive. That's ignorant. Um, take counsel before you enter into anything. If you don't have effective relationships outside of a man, you most likely not gonna have an effective relationship with a man, right?
Mm.
Because of past experiences. That's what I would say. Um, while in a marriage, date night is important. Date night shouldn't be to where you guys are still answering phone calls talking about the kids. Okay, leave the kids with somebody. In my case, I ain't gotta worry about it. Bam. But date night should just be you and him into each other. Intimacy into her, into him. I see unity. You and I tie because it's UNITY, right?
Mhm.
So it is in the U is you in where we tie together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need that time to be able to become unity. That nothing is interrupting that time and that space. Whether he is a pastor, whether his business, whether you own a business or running a business, because I'm telling you, I'm a multimillionaire and my husband needs to know that. Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
No, that would not come in between us becoming one. The Bible says that he leaves from his parent and cleave to his wife and they become
Mhm.
one, right? which means that nothing should be more important than him, and nothing should be more
Yeah.
important than her, right? And Joanna, you said something that was so phenomenal. Even though you have kids, your kids shouldn't even become that important that you cannot become one, right? There is time that you guys need that time to be able to communicate, and that time is where you guys will begin to be cohesive, seal together, right? That you can know what each other thinking before you think it. Y'all can be in the same room and you see his look, you be like, yeah, all right,
Yep.
we about to bounce, baby. You ready? And you just saw the look. You didn't need to say nothing. And then I would say,
Yep.
keep your marriage spicy, okay?
Yes.
Um, y'all church people kill me. I didn't say Christians.
Church people,
Y'all
right?
church people kills me, okay? Oh my
Too
god.
much religion, not enough fun.
Come on, okay?
Mhm.
Like, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret, right?
That's a whole nother topic right there. We
Come
do that
on.
Honey,
already.
it is. We'll be here another hour.
Too much religion, not enough fun.
Okay. This couple I am counseling, they didn't have no spice, so I had to give them a little spice. It's okay to go to adult field trip stores. Okay.
Listen, that's a whole other story,
So
right?
she she has. I told her, I said, girl, they got these vibrating underwear. You get him the remote control. You put the underwear on. Y'all go out together. Y'all a party, and then let him play with the vibrator. You gotta keep it spicy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Stop being so heavenly high that you know earthly good.
Mhm.
Girl.
No woman should grab the attention of your husband because of their lack of.
Yeah.
Not
Nope.
just with sex, but communicating with him. You should be that person in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else should be lending his ear. The one thing I had the opportunity because of certain people I dated. I was in high profile people with marriages, and Dr. Claudette Copeland. I had the pleasure of being in her presence and just loving on her and her husband, even though they are big time people in San Antonio. They,
Mhm.
baby, when I tell you they go to the mom and pop stores like we do, you wouldn't even think that they do that, right? They go to Burley. You see them in Burley. Hey, what's up, Bishop? Oh, what's going on, girl? What you gonna
Mhm.
cook? They go to the buffets, the Chinese buffets. You see them everywhere, right? Because they're
Yep.
not incognito. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? They literally are in the community. I can say
Mhm.
that. And so she had cancer, and Dr. Claudette say, y'all, the women was at my husband. They was at the bishop because they had already killed her. She wasn't
Mm,
dead, Joanna. She was still
geez,
alive.
that's tacky.
But her husband, because she was a wife to her husband, baby, he ain't like that greens. He only like her greens. Hello? Okay. Now you don't put the right spices in there. Claudette does it well. Okay. All right. And then Susie Owens, she would crack me up because I met her in DC because of who I was dating at the time. Um, she told she told her the lady at her church. She say, "Nah, my husband don't eat sweet potato pie. We do.
Mm,
So you don't cook no pie for him and don't cook no pie for me because we
Exactly.
eat
I
it.
know that's right.
He don't eat it. You know. So, but I'm saying that to say this as wives. Um, if your husband is the cooker and he's effective in cooking, you better be the sous chef. You better chop up them onions and them bell peppers, okay? Right? So you be the one who preps the food, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, do
And
something.
he cooks the food, all right? So it should not be a time that you should leave any room
Yeah.
for any woman to come in. Now, if you got a man that's just stupid and ignorant, that's a whole different story. But my advice would be like, you shouldn't do that. When your husband going to bed, y'all going to bed,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
baby. And if you like me, baby, you know what to do to put his butt to sleep in it.
The sleeping
Now,
pill is what I
okay,
call it.
it be so. I'm like, okay, he good.
Knocked out.
So, and then you get up and do your praying, and then you get up and seal your crib, and then you get up and do what you need to do. But while that man is there and up, and he's been at work all day, and he's come home, your job and your obligation is to him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Him first. Because the Bible says charity starts at home and spread abroad.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be careful of who you are submitting yourself to. The Bible says you submit to a man who loves Christ as Christ loved the church.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we go wrong. We just go just to submitting and being impulsive and just marrying all willy-nilly just to say you have a husband. That ain't nothing to be proud of if he ain't following Christ and knows how to treat you as a woman.
Right.
Because how he responds to his mom is how he gonna treat you.
Mm-hmm.
How he responds to his sister is how he gonna treat you when you piss him off. If he calling his mom out her name, baby, it ain't gonna be nothing for him to call you something.
Right.
So just be
Yeah.
careful in what you do and how you approach situations. Don't be impulsive. You need to learn to forgive, but forgive yourself. Forgiveness is a gift. You know, I forgive people for walking out my life, and I thank them too while I'm forgiving them. Thank you. Have a good day. And it's no hard feelings. I can say today, because I've experienced the death of my mother unexpectedly, I can say I harbor no ill will for nobody of what they did in my life. Whether they did it to me in church or outside of church, I have no ill will, none. I have a forgiving spirit. I don't even want to remember it no more. Because God says that I throw it in the sea of forgetfulness, never to remember it again. So I'm trying to get to that place. I don't have. I talk to people who has done me wrong, pastors who have done me wrong, people in the church who have done me wrong. I talk to them today, and there's no hard feelings. I don't even desire to get them back, because that will affect how I approach the future husband that God has for me. And I promise you, baby, he's gonna be so happy with me. He's gonna be like, thank you, Jesus. He's gonna be saying, thank you, Lord. Baby, he gonna start shouting. Because I'm becoming a better me every day.
I just want to.
Girl, I just want to thank you. I thank you for her. I thank you for her. You know, but Ashley called me the anointed one, baby. You anointed her for such a time as this. Okay. But please, please, please be patient in all you do. Be careful in all you do. Be slow to speak.
Yeah.
To listen, watch, as well as pray. Those things matter. What you speak out of your mouth is important. You don't speak death into your marriage. You don't speak death into your man. Because we don't realize words are powerful. You speak those things that be not as though they are. Me and my husband spoke divorce into existence because we spoke it before it actually happened. So when the enemy comes in and tries to defeat your marriage, you speak life. You know, God said to Ezekiel, will these dead bones live again? He was asking a rhetorical question. Yeah, they can live again. How do I make them live? Speak it. And I will say this for the rest of my life. Speak what you are seeking until you can see what you have said. If you see your man being this person, you better speak it until you can see it. All right? So, with that being said, Vinay, can you pray us out?
Absolutely. Father, we just thank you. We thank you for such an amazing day, God. We thank you for an amazing time. Father, I just pray, God, that you would just pour back into Erica all that she continues to pour out through her podcast, God, that you would give her every desire of her heart, God. And I decree and declare that nothing is missing and nothing is broken, God. Nothing is lacking. In Jesus' name, I pray that you would open the heavens over her, God, and just bless her. In the name of Jesus, I pray over Joanna in her household and her marriage and her children. I pray that you would bless her ministry and everything that she touches, God. And I pray for every person that has been connected tonight, every person that has asked a question, every person that is hurting, every person that is broken, every person that is struggling in their marriage, God. I pray that you would meet them where they are, God, that you would be in the midst of every situation, God. And again, I decree and declare that nothing is missing and nothing is broken, God. I pray that you would allow them to see the value that you see in them, God. Allow them to see themselves the way that you see themselves, God, that you see them. Allow them to speak, God, what you have spoken over them already, God, that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that they are above and not beneath, that they are more than conquerors, that they are victorious, God.
Yes.
In the name of Jesus, God, that they are lenders and not borrowers, God. So I just speak a blessing over each and every person that has taken out time tonight to join us, God. And I pray that something that was said would have been of encouragement to them, that will be a mindset change, God, that will be a heart change, God, that will cause them to speak life instead of death, God, that something tonight would be a help to someone or would have been a help to somebody, God. And I pray, God, that as we leave this podcast tonight, God, that you would just allow us to have peaceful rest, that you would cover our homes. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for being such an amazing panel in the sound room on
Thank you so much.
tonight. You
Thank
guys did
you.
it. Y'all lit it up. Hello. Okay. Uh, so thank you for everybody that entered in tonight. We answered some questions. We still have a lot of questions to go, but hey, we still got Thursday. Hello. All right. Thursday is part 2 of Life After Divorce. You wanna tune in because I do have a guest coming in speaking about life after divorce on this coming Thursday. It's gonna be radical. It's gonna be amazing. Thank you again, Vinay, for your time. Thank you again, Joanna, for your time. And thank you for all the listeners that tuned in with us on tonight at the sound room. This is your girl, Erica Nicole, the anointed one, sounding out because it's time for us to go to bed. Hello.
Good
It's
night,
after dark
everybody.
and
Good
after
night.
hours. Good night.